My entitled mother demanded my entire life savings of $10,000 just so she could hire a lawyer to get my brother out of prison. And when I refused, she threatened to take me to court to get all of my money. Here's what happened. So to give some context so people don't get too confused in this story, I am 18 years old at the time of this happening, and this all happened about 3 years ago. My brother went to prison for doing some very bad stuff, and my mom wanted me to pay a lawyer for my brother on my own dime, and my poor dad was in the middle of all of this. So one day, me and my parents all woke up one morning to go visit my brother in prison. As for what he was in for, I will just say that he got in a fight with someone. So we all went into the car to go visit my brother in prison. When we got there, we learned for some dumb reason, only my parents get to visit my brother. So when my parents went to visit him, I was forced to wait in the police station waiting area. After about 40 minutes of waiting, my parents came back. I asked if we were ready to leave, and my mom said yes, but also added that we needed to talk about something in the car. So me, my mom, and my dad all got in the car, and my mom asked me the craziest question I've ever been asked in my life. She said, "So honey, I know you've got like $10,000 or more in your savings, and I want to know if we can use your money and we'll pay you back." Now, keep in mind, I have been working hard since I was 14 years old just to get at least $10,000 in my name. I do not go out of my way to hide the fact that I have my own money aside from my parents. So when my mom politely asked me for $10,000, I politely told her no. The reason is, for one, I do not deserve to suffer for my own brother's idiot mistakes. My brother is always stealing money from me and everyone in this family. I do not like my brother for multiple reasons. So with all that in mind, when I told my mom no, she started screaming at me and my dad. She threatened to get a lawyer involved and make me give her all of my life savings. I asked her if she had enough money to get a lawyer, why not use it for my brother? My mom then doubled back by saying, "Never mind, you are just so selfish." Then she went on this giant rant about all the things that she does for me, just trying to guilt trip me into giving her my life savings. And all of this so that my brother could have a lawyer. But you know what? He's still just gonna be in prison. While my mom was yelling at me, my dad tried to calm her down. Eventually, the yelling gets so much for me and dad, we both chose to take an Uber ride home and leave the keys to the car with my mom. Of course, my mom was yelling at us in public on the sidewalk in front of a police station, while me and my dad just walked away. My dad and I got home with Uber, and my dad called my mom on the phone. While my mom was yelling at my dad on the phone, my dad said to her, "Look, it's his money. His brother being in prison is not his problem, and he worked hard on getting that money." My mom eventually got home and didn't say a single thing to me, and after that altercation, we were not on speaking terms for almost 2 weeks, till finally we got the news that my brother's public attorney was able to prove my brother was not guilty. My mom finally came to me and she said, "I'm sorry." But even though she said she was sorry, I was still mad at her, and I gave her the silent treatment for a whole month. As of today, my mom and I are on speaking terms, but I will never forget the way she treated me. How crazy is that? This entitled mother actually thought she was gonna get this kid's life savings and try and use him to pay for some lawyer fee that she was clearly too cheap to do herself, which is honestly just ridiculous. This kid worked for several years just to get that amount of money in his bank account, and this lady wanted to siphon all of it away in an instant, which is honestly so unfair. So good for this original poster for putting their foot down and saying enough is enough, because if I was in their shoes, I would have done the same thing. It's good that they're now on speaking terms with their mom, but you know what? I bet they'll never forget the way they treated them, because being treated like that is absolutely ridiculous, and there's honestly no good excuse for the way this entitled mother was acting. An entitled Karen speeds past me at 60 miles an hour, all while I'm trying to get my kid dropped off for school, and as I'm trying to leave, this lady tries to claim that I almost hit her car, when in reality she was just going way too fast. Here's what happened. So I was driving into the neighborhood where the school is. The lady behind me really wanted me to speed up, but we were about a quarter of a mile from the school, and the streets are small, so I just let her tailgate my car for about a block. I turned left and she had to stop at the stop sign, so I figured our little moment was over, but I could not have been more wrong. When she finally took the turn, I was halfway down the street to the school. I checked my mirror, and I was relieved that it took her so long to turn, because I get stressed out when people tailgate. I'm not generally a slow driver, except when I'm driving half a block away from an elementary school at drop-off time. Well, this entitled Karen apparently had had a point to make because she gassed the heck out of it and zoomed down the street. I was worried she was going to zoom past me on this small street, so I move over a little to the left. This crazy Karen gassed it more and went past me at around 60 miles an hour, rolled through the stop sign, zoomed in front of the school, blocked someone's driveway, and left her car sticking into the street, blocking two different ways of traffic. And after doing all of that, she went into the school with her daughter. I was so angry that I didn't want to speak directly with her because I knew I would have been a jerk and not gained anything useful. So I did the next best thing and I spoke with the parking volunteers, as well as the office, about possibly getting some safety officers at the corner, just so this kind of thing doesn't happen again. I went back to my car, and right before I took off, she drove next to my car and actually started yelling at me. This entitled Karen was trying to claim that I almost hit her car and that she had to drop her daughter off for school, which is all just really ridiculous. My retorts explaining that we were all doing the same thing and that the 8 seconds she gained in the final quarter-mile stretch is not worth putting everyone else's kids in danger. But that didn't matter to her because all my complaints were drowned out by her admittedly impressive filibuster skills, and it de-evolved into one of those pathetic parents inappropriately yelling at each other in front of the school scenes that you really wish you weren't a part of. I'm honestly pretty ashamed that I wasn't the better person, and I can't get it out of my head, but man, all I could see in my head was some poor kid getting rammed by her for no reason other than her sense of entitlement just to try and get her kid to school on time. Hopefully that never happens, and hopefully next time she'll just slow down. In my opinion, if now is ever a good time to buy a dash cam, I don't know what is. Getting a dash cam and setting it up can record instances like this and basically be your witness against this crazy entitled Karen. I mean, this lady tried to claim that you tried to hit her car, when in reality, this lady was screaming past you going 60 miles an hour. And this is all just to drop her stupid kid off at school. I mean, come on, that's just unbelievably inappropriate. But with people like that, usually karma does come around and bite them in the butt. So hopefully that does happen eventually, and this entitled Karen is put in her place for driving incredibly too fast and for being unnecessarily aggressive. My best friend is being hostile towards me after I said I couldn't spend quality time with him in a casual way, if you know what I mean. And now I don't know what to do. I'm a 22-year-old female and my best friend is a 22-year-old male, and we have been close best friends for over a year now. We're both in college, we met last year, and became really close very quickly. We used to do everything together, grocery shopping, movie nights, etc. This even came to a point where people thought we were a couple. He has done things in the past that have made me think that he's interested in me, like kissing me on the forehead, going out of his way to comfort me, picking me up and spinning me around, stuff like that. But in tandem with that, he also sometimes makes comments about how he's not attracted to me, or essentially implying that he thinks he can do better than me. It's been a very stressful semester for the both of us. We both have been dealing with some family issues, and I've been having some health problems. And to top it all off, it's my final semester. And recently, he's been having some comments towards me that are very mean, rude, or passive-aggressive, which understandably have been hurting my feelings. I've expressed this to him, and he apologizes every time. A couple of weeks ago, he drunkenly kissed me. We talked about this the next morning and decided it was a bad idea to risk our friendship. A few days later, he told me he was interested in spending quality time with me, if you know what I mean. We talked about it, and he said he was not interested in a relationship with me, and I told him that I couldn't spend quality time with him in a casual way without adverse effects on my mental health. We then mutually agreed that it was a no for both of us. We then kissed throughout the rest of the night, and that was it. Now he has been continuously making those comments to me, ignoring me when I ask him to hang out, and just overall being not a great friend to me. The comments have gotten worse since we had our talk, and despite expressing how they make me upset and him apologizing, it's still going on. I'm worried that he's lashing out at me because I essentially rejected him. I also think it could be that he's dealing with a lot right now and is just taking it out on me, but I can't keep handling the meanness. It's giving me anxiety and it's affecting my mental health. I'm not sure if I just let him continue on or if I should comfort him or just distance myself entirely. He is my best friend and I don't want our friendship ruined. What should I do? This story is crazy to me because this guy legitimately wants to have casual quality time with this lady without having any kind of relationship involved. And I hope you're catching on to what I'm insinuating without actually saying it. First things first, this person needs to understand that this guy is an absolute piece of garbage. He is only acting this way towards you so that you can spend quality time with him and he won't have to have some kind of relationship tied down to him. Like, he's a grade A piece of garbage. savage, and you need to see that first and foremost. He does not view you as a friend, like at all. Maybe you do on your end, but if he's going around and he's saying these mean comments towards you, all because guess what? You said no, let's not do that, then in my opinion, that's not a good friend. He clearly was just using you for quality time, and that's absolutely horrifying. He's a horrible friend. He's not a good friend at all. I mean, there's an obvious pattern here, right? Like you tell him that no, we're not going to do this, and then he turns around and becomes this absolute nightmare of a person, saying all these mean, passive-aggressive things to you, and it's probably because he feels rejected, like he couldn't get exactly what he wanted. It also sounds like he kind of love-bombed you a little bit. I mean, you guys basically were a couple. He was kissing you on the forehead, you're going out to have movies together, he's picking you up and spinning you around. You two were practically a couple. You've kissed, you've made out, even if you're just a little bit inebriated. So maybe he thought this was like a good time for him to be like, hey, let's do this casually. And that's just really messed up in my opinion. If I was in your shoes, I would dump this guy to the curb almost immediately. This is not a good person, especially if this is how he reacts to you telling him no. So I honestly think you can find better friends than this, and you really should not have to put up with this for another second, because he clearly has ulterior motives, and you could do a lot better than this in your life. My best friend has been limiting contact with me for over 2 years now, and now seemingly out of nowhere, they suddenly want to borrow a large sum of money from me, and I honestly don't know what to do. So I have had a friend for many years now that I would consider very close friends with me. I helped her plan her wedding, we spent time at each other's homes, we did things together with our spouses, and we even took girls' trips together. We were even there for each other when we each lost a parent. In other words, we were very close friends. Then about 2 years ago, she began not responding to my text messages for weeks at a time, and any phone calls that I sent her way went straight to voicemail immediately. On the rare occasions that we did talk, she just blamed it on being busy and promised that we would catch up very soon. Then I found out from a mutual friend that she had left her husband. I, of course, tried to get in touch, telling her I was there for her if she needed to talk or whatever, but I honestly got no response. I got in touch with her husband just to ask if she was okay, and he just told me I needed to talk to her because he was left in the dark himself. He came home one day and she and her adult son and his girlfriend had moved out of the house. I tried to get in touch with her and I texted her sister and her mother. Both of them told me I would need to talk to her, and they said they had very limited information themselves. I continued sending text messages and offering my support and a shoulder to cry on. It was one of those situations where if she needed anything, she could just let me know, but I heard nothing from her. The last text message I received from her was last Christmas. It just said Merry Christmas and nothing more. This year I have tried reaching out to her several times, but I've gotten no response. This morning I received several text messages from her where she is basically asking to borrow $5,000 from me, and she needed this money so she didn't get evicted from the place that she's living in. And to top it all off, she said she would try to start paying me back early next year. The last I knew, all 3 of the people that were living there, my friend and the 2 other people living there, were all working full-time jobs. She wasn't very forthcoming about what happened, as well as how it got to this point or anything. When I tried to ask questions just to better understand, she just said she didn't want to talk about it on the phone. I even offered to meet with her in person to talk about it, but she just kept asking if I would be able to loan her the money. I could probably come up with the money, no problem, but it would cause me quite a bit of trouble. I would have to make partial payments on certain bills, and I would have to pay some interest on some of those bills as well. I just am conflicted about all of this. If I don't loan her the money, I am fairly sure our friendship would be over for good. But on the other hand, I feel like the friendship might already be over. So I'm honestly at a crossroads. Should I risk loaning her this money? Am I trying to save a friendship that is already over? What should I do? There's a lot going on in this story, but first and foremost, does the original poster really think they have any kind of friendship with this person? I mean, they've been ghosted for almost 2 years. This person intentionally cut off basically everybody in their life. Their husband, their family, their friends. Everybody's on the outside looking in, scratching their head saying what happened. And then out of nowhere, after you've made several attempts to reach out, she's like, hey, can I borrow $5,000? And then when you try to find out more details to see if this is worth your money, she's being super vague and saying, oh no, I can't meet or talk about it. I just need the money. That to me is a massive red flag. I honestly don't think there's any friendship to salvage. This friend has clearly changed over the last few years, and she is not the same person that you remember. And I think you need to remember that going into this, because in my opinion, I really don't think you will ever see that money ever again. You're gonna give that to her and then she's just gonna disappear again. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe you know her better than what I'm assuming, but that's at least my my initial instinct, and I just don't think you should ignore that. So I think if anything, just proceed with caution. I really would not give her any money until you figure out what actually is going on and get all of the details, as well as maybe getting something in writing saying that she's going to pay you back in a timely manner, or at least setting up some kind of time frame in which she can give you your money back. Because $5,000 is a lot of money, and it honestly would be such a shame for that to just disappear overnight and for you to get taken advantage of from somebody you used to call a friend. My boyfriend makes me feel incredibly alone, as he is never attentive to my needs and doesn't do anything to help me in my life, despite always telling me that he loves me and that he's there for me. And I'm honestly not sure what to do. So I am going through very difficult times right now. Life is just really scary, and the problems are piling up, and I am struggling. I am trying to fight, but I am overwhelmed. I already have rejection issues from being the black sheep of the family, and I have strained relationships with my parents. My boyfriend tells me that he loves me and that he is there for me all the time, and he is really good about repeating it and making sure I know. But here's the issue. It doesn't feel like he is alone. I feel like I am fighting the world alone, and then sometimes I tell him about what's going on. He is never willing to make any adjustments in his plans and routines to accommodate my needs. He never lifts a finger to help me. Tonight, I was overflooded with sadness about everything going on, especially in my life, and I had a really bad episode. I didn't want to burden him, so I suggested that we talk it through some other time. He was the one that insisted that he was there for me, and he pushed me into talking to him. However, he was completely unengaged. He was uninterested, and even sighed with annoyance once while I was talking. It seemed like he was just mechanically performing his boyfriend duty, just filling the form and doing what he needed to do. It was also about 10 o'clock p.m. when he cut me off abruptly because he needs to go to sleep to get up early for work tomorrow. The conversation didn't come to a natural end at all. I couldn't help but feeling much worse and lonelier after the conversation than before it, despite how many times he repeated that he was there for me. We have been together for a couple of years now, and he never ever helped me with anything. Sometimes it almost feels like it is important for him to avoid ever helping me. I was trained in this relationship to never lean on him for anything and to fight my battles alone. But here's the thing. I love this man the way I couldn't imagine ever loving someone. I believe him when he says that he loves me, but I feel like I don't have a man that I can lean on, and that will protect me. But in contrast, I honestly feel like I'm fighting my battles alone. Like we are not a couple supporting each other, but two people leading separate lives and then telling each other about them on the side. What should I do? I'm honestly really surprised that your boyfriend is being this distant. For context, her boyfriend is 42 years old and she's 28. That's a pretty big gap between the two of you. And it's also really weird that he wouldn't be there more for you in your time of need. I mean, clearly you're going through a hard time right now, and it sounds like he only listened to you, just like you said, just to try and do his boyfriend duty instead of actually caring about what's going on. But with all of that in mind, I'm honestly really surprised that you've even stuck it out by staying with this guy. I know if I was in your shoes and I felt like my partner was treating me like garbage and basically ignoring my needs and wants and wasn't taking what I'm saying seriously or anything like that, I really would be miserable. So I can completely understand where you're like, it feels like I'm doing this all alone. Because in some respects, I think you are doing this alone. Your boyfriend is just not involved in the slightest. He can say that he loves you and that he cares about you, but the way he's acting says completely otherwise. And this really seems like a case where actions really do speak louder than words. So hopefully this can all work out for you, because you really do deserve to be supported in your relationship, because otherwise you might as well just both be roommates. My friend constantly hits me, and it's starting to bother me, and I really don't know what to do. So me and my friend have been friends for about 4 years. In those years, I've realized that our friendship wasn't going to last for that long. Something she tends to do is to hurt me physically if I make a small joke about a boy she's crushing on. These jokes aren't offensive or harmful towards her at all. Using her fist, feet, elbow, you name it, she tags me with one of them. In earlier years of our friendship, she would be considered the popular or the known girl that everybody likes, and she still is that to this day. I was the complete opposite. I was shy, quiet, and barely anyone knew me, only until I began hanging out with her. So a few days ago, we were talking on the topic of boys that we knew, as well as who looks good and who we find attractive, stuff like that. Then I mentioned one boy who she claims to hate, but deep down I knew she liked him, and she was clearly in denial. I make a silly joke about her and that boy, and then she slaps me right across the cheek. And this slap was hard, and the other people heard the slap sound too. My cheek felt as if it was burning, and I've never seen her react this way. She immediately began apologizing to me, saying, "Sorry, it wasn't meant to be that hard hard. This also isn't the first time that this has happened before. There were more occasions just like this, and those times I didn't even make jokes to cause her to slap me. Not once have I ever retaliated and hit her back, because she would get angry and hurt me even more. I have a bruise on my shin from one of her kicks, and it's still visible to this day, even though it was 4 months ago. Classmates tell me to stay away from her, but that's impossible because we live in the same residential building, meaning I have to see her every day. Like I said earlier, she's one of those popular girls that everyone likes. Since I'm her friend, students would decide to like me too. If I stop being her friend, then others will go against me, and they won't hear my side of the story because they'll already be siding with my friend due to her popularity. I honestly feel so lost, and I really don't know what to do. Honestly, the original poster needs to put this in perspective. They would rather get hit, kicked, and pushed and slapped than have some kind of safety in their friendships. Like, that is not healthy in the slightest. I don't care how popular or known this girl really is. I don't care if everybody likes her. The way she is treating you and physically attacking you is completely inappropriate, and that needs to stop. And most importantly, you should not have to put up with that. I mean, that's honestly ridiculous. And sure, friends can have a play fight or some kind of iteration of that, if you will, and it's usually okay and it's completely fine if it's mutual and you're both kind of in on the joke, if you will. But it sounds like this is a very one-sided situation that cannot be retaliated against or commented on. And that, in my opinion, is not okay, because this no longer goes from just being a joke between friends, and this now enters the territory where she's just straight up assaulting you. And genuinely speaking, you don't need that in your life. So I really just would not take this sitting down. You don't need people like this in your life who are going to mistreat you and expect you to just sit there and take it. I mean, you said it yourself. You've had a bruise on your leg for 4 months. I just would not be okay with this if I was in your shoes. And you know what? Popularity is very temporary. Her popularity eventually will fizzle out. And I really think you're being too hard on yourself. If you stop being friends with her like you're insinuating, I don't think everybody would just turn on you automatically. That really just seems very ridiculous. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely push this person away, because anybody who slaps or hits you and it's not a joke or some kind of mutual exchange, in my opinion, is not a good friend. And you absolutely do not deserve that in your life. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.